What's up, guys? This is VinylicPuma, and are you like me in that you managed to find that one really cool gun, only for it to become useless after a couple of levels? I've always found that really annoying, especially with Legendaries and previous Borderlands games. You get something really cool to drop, and then after a little while, it starts to suck. However, Gearbox did us a real solid with Wonderlands and actually not only gave us a pretty amazing early game weapon, but one that you can potentially come back and repeatedly farm over and over. In fact, you can come back and refarm it almost any time from about level 1 to 40. And you can even come back during the Chaos levels as well, though that's assuming you're really short on Legendaries and Purples. Before we get into it though, based on my own testing, this method currently works as of the most recent hotfix, which is hotfix 1.0.1.0e, and I've tested it on PS5 and PC. It works on both of those and probably works on PS4 and Xbox, but I'll have to enlist your guys' assistance in figuring that out. So if you're on Xbox, definitely leave a comment below letting me know you tried this and you got it to work. But let's talk about that gun that I clickbaited you for. Enter the Cryo, or I guess Frost variant of the Dahlia Nightshade SMG, and more specifically, the X4 multiplier version. To be honest, I'm pretty confused at how these bulbous-looking SMGs work in Wonderlands. It appears to be based on element, and that will determine what kind of projectiles you're going to get. I've seen fire ones that shoot these like weird sporadic shots every so often. I've seen some corrosive lasers, and I've seen some dark magic versions that shoot orbs. But that's besides the point because, in my opinion, the best non-unique, non-legendary variant that I've come across so far is the Cryo version of this type of gun with the X4 multiplier. It is worth mentioning as you're playing Wonderlands that you can definitely find non-Dahlia variants from other manufacturers. Hyperius makes one, as does Furior. However, for our purposes, I'm mainly going to be discussing the Dahlia variant as it's going to be the easiest for us to obtain. If you can take some time between some quests or whatever you're doing in game to farm a chest every once in a while, you can get countless numbers of these things very easily and effectively. To get this gun, all you have to do is head to the tutorial level at the beginning of the game and run through the entire area until you reach Castle Harrowfast. What's interesting about this chest is that it seems to always spawn with 4 guns. It's usually a pistol, 2 Dahlia SMGs, and then, at least recently, it's been another SMG, although in the past I've seen it spawn other stuff. But of the 2 Dahlia SMGs, one for whatever reason always seems to be a Nightshade with the Frost element and the X4 multiplier. Every time I've managed to open this chest, I've always gotten one of these. It's almost like a quest reward weapon, however, you don't have quests, you don't have to wait for an item of the day at a vendor. All you have to do is make a somewhat lengthy trek through the tutorial level and open this chest at Castle Harrowfast. And like I've said, this is still working as of the 1.0.1.0e hotfix. Dude, it is really hard to say that fast, and I suspect it's even harder to type it really fast. But I bet that you can't do it in the comment section below. I'm not sure if it was intentional for this to always appear or not, but I think you and I can agree that it's awesome, especially when you consider that a lot of the enemies and loot in this game scale with your level, so you can very easily always just come back here and get another one of these things anytime your current one is having trouble melting faces. Speaking of melting faces, part of the reason I think this gun is so good is because it not only has the ×4 projectile multiplier, but it fires pretty fast with a good, consistent projectile pattern. And this is despite its TK's wave type vibes. I think you'll also be happy to know that burst and automatic versions are available. And you may even find that the semi-auto mode can be nice too if you like to mash the trigger on your controller or click really fast with your mouse. You are going to have to contend with fire rate to some degree, so usually what I just do is I hold the trigger down and let the bullets go burr, but feel free to experiment. I also think the Frost, at least between levels 1 and 40, is pretty powerful. Aside from this thing essentially being a skeleton's worst nightmare, you can also set someone up to get meleeed or just use this gun to slow the enemies down and then shoot their crit spots. You may even find that this gun has good synergy with the Berserker, and I actually really like it with my spell shot character as the crits can recharge your spells and allow you to spam those spells even more. I should also mention that I've managed to get a chaotic variant with chaos levels on. You may be surprised to know that a level 40 chaotic green rarity Nightshade is about on par with a level 40 non-chaotic purple rarity variant. Considering all you had to do was literally open a chest, I'd say that's pretty good. Sure, the purple is definitely better, especially for recoil and fire rate, but again, this thing is free and you may not have to spend a lot of time getting your chaotic variant. The only issues I can really think of are how this thing slows down as you continue to shoot it, the logistics of chest farming repeatedly, and the viability of cryo against all enemy types as you progress through the game. Concerning the fire rate thing, it is annoying. It's really bad as you expand your magazine through skills or what have you, as those final shots can really take forever. Fortunately, most things get taken out during the first several shots, and if you already have the habit of compulsively reloading like I do, the fire rate resets once you've reloaded. You can also just stop shooting for a while and wait, but in my view, you might as well just reload. As for chest farming, like Borderlands 3, there seems to be a timer on every chest in the game, so you couldn't get the save point near Castle Harrowfast and just repeatedly farm this thing. You're probably going to have to wait about 30 minutes to an hour each time. What I usually do is I just go off and do some quests and then come back, and it's usually refarmable by then. The final downside is Cryo/Frost and its damage reduction against flesh. I found this can become a problem with enemies that have significantly more health. After all, you're dealing only about 70% of the damage you normally would. But I guess the upside to that is that your damage to armor and shields is about 95%, and then of course for bones it's like 115%. So if you have to take out some skeletons, then this is essentially the perfect weapon to do that. I would just caution against overly relying on this thing, because maybe this is anecdotal, but I've encountered instances where I may have been able to ignore an enemy health bar at say level 30, but not ignore that same enemy at level 40 with some of the chaos levels on. So just be aware of that while using this thing, because yes, it is pretty powerful, however, you will want to use other weapons, especially in instances where the enemies are resistant to cryo. At the end of the day, if you're looking for a pretty powerful gun early on in the game, or you've encountered guns like these on your playthrough, and you just simply wanted another one, I'd highly recommend you stop by the tutorial level and use the method I've described to pick one of these things up. Something else that I think is worth mentioning is that I've found the Dahlia and Hyperius variants of these X4 Nightshades to be the best. The main difference between the two is that the Hyperius one gets a tighter spread as you fire, though that comes with the downside of not being able to retain as much fire rate at maximum accuracy. But if you find either just playing through the game, I'd recommend both. I'm not sure if this guaranteed Nightshade will get patched out. My guess is that it wouldn't, simply because there are still much better weapons out there. And anytime you pick one of these up, you are limited to the green variant. Things might be different if you could get your hands on purple Nightshades by farming this chest. That, and once you get much later into the game, you're going to want purple chaotic or volatile variants of this particular gun anyway. Those are going to be much more powerful than what you see here. So my thinking is that they're going to leave this thing alone, but I suppose we're just going to have to wait and see. Otherwise, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. It's been a while since I made a proper tutorial, so if you enjoyed this video, definitely take the time to turn that like button blue, click the bell, and as always, and again, thank you so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and feel free to stick around until the end. After all, I've got a few more mobs to clear out. You're still here? I've got to admit that's pretty impressive. Thank you so much for supporting this channel, and I'll see you soon.